Hi, I'm Brian at Reload, Orange County Reloading Supply in Anaheim. Cleaning your casings. You have a number of different ways that you can clean brass. The traditional method to do that would be with a vibratory tumbler. Those will use walnut and or corncob media. You have the harder, more coarse material in walnut that's going to do a little bit better job for you as far as the cutting, the cleaning action. And then the corncob, being a little bit softer, more rounded edged material, is going to work a little bit better for bringing up the sheen and making them nice and shiny. Now you have two types of this media. You've got what's called treated. In other words, it's got some sort of an additive to it, whether it be a polish or some sort of a cleaning agent to it. And then when you've got what's called untreated media, that is like a dry media that you would necessarily need to add some sort of a polish to. Lots of different brands out there for the different polish. Lyman's got it, Dillon's got it, Barry's. It really, frankly, probably doesn't make any difference which brand you choose to go with. But if you're going to use a dry media, you do need to add some sort of a polish to it. The tumbler itself, again, by brand, it probably makes less difference. Some of them, the bowl will be larger, so if you're going to be doing lots of rifle shooting and you've got to be cleaning up lots of 223, 308 casings and the like, well, you're probably going to want to get something with a bit larger capacity so you're not having to do quite as many batches. But you're going to be able to reuse this media many, many times. What happens is the more you use it, it begins to break down, and it's going to start to take longer and longer to do the same job. Now, the stuff here by Lyman is a treated material. It's got like a jeweler's rouge or something to it, and it does a real nice job. So you put it, say, half, two-thirds full of the bowl, full of the walnut, or they call it tough nut, run it for an hour, hour and a half, whatever, and then you dump it into a separator. And that's going to separate out their casings from the media. Now you dump your brass back into the bowl, and then you would go to the corncob. The corncob would then use that, it's like a film that's going to be left on the casings, which you want on there, because that's what's going to help bring up the sheen, make them nice and shiny. And then just run it for as long as you would like to get them as shiny as you want it to be. Now your casings do not have to be like jewelry. In other words, blind you bright and shiny. It looks great. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. And if you like your stuff looking nice and clean and shiny and new, go for it. Let it run all night if you want to. However, they don't have to, as far as what we're concerned with before we start making ammunition, be really super bright, shiny, clean. They need to be clean, because you don't want to put crud into your dies, and you don't want to put crud into the action of your gun. So again, which brand you choose to go with, probably less important than the fact that you are doing something to clean your casings. Now, there is a lot of creative stuff that's going on with people using other kinds of materials from pet stores and whatnot. If that works for you, fine, it works. The finer the granulation, I find it doesn't do as good a job as you have coarser granulation when you're looking at the media here. I've experimented with some stuff myself, using wood chips, sawdust. The size of the chips are really pretty important, because that's what's important. You don't want stuff getting stuck in flash holes. If it gets too big or too small, it's really not going to work out well. But if you want to, experiment with it. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. So aside from the vibratory tumbling, you have now sonic cleaning. Sonic cleaners have been around for a very long time. You've got two different solutions that you would use in conjunction with a sonic cleaner. Solution that is made for doing brass, your casings, and then a solution that's going to be used for doing parts, or steel. When you are doing steel parts, you want to make sure that you are using the appropriate solution, so you're not going to have rust coming up on your parts immediately as they come out of the sonic cleaner, as you dry them, and you do need to dry them. Otherwise, you hit them with an air dryer or something, put them in the oven, then oil them real quickly. Otherwise, you're going to have rust coming up. But the beautiful part about using a sonic cleaner is that not only can you do brass, you can do your parts. If you get a bigger one, Hornaday's got one that's really long. You can drop an entire upper receiver into that thing. So you have lots of different recipes that I've seen online, people coming up with their own solutions. If you want to come up with your own homemade brew for the solution that you put in there, fine, experiment with it. Maybe you can come up with something better than the commercial products that are available out there. I found that the commercial products that are available that come in a concentrate that you would typically mix either 20 to 1 or 40 to 1 with distilled water. You can use tap water, but your stuff's probably going to have spots on it at the end. But if you use distilled water and then use with the directions that they would typically give you, on the bottle, you get really very good results. So if you don't want to go to the trouble of mixing up your own, this just makes life a whole lot easier for you. But do dry them and make sure that they're dry well before you start to work with anything and oil your parts up. The other method, more popular method, is now going to be what's called rotary tumbling. And there's a number of different ones that are out there. I happen to have a couple of them here by Frankfurt, and basically it's a great big rock tumbler that you're again going to use a solution, mix 20 to 1, 40 to 1, that's kind of your soap water, so to speak, and then that's going to use the tumbling action with not media that's corn cob and walnut, but rather like a stainless steel pin. Now when you typically buy one of these things, you're going to have a kit and they're going to give you the stainless steel pins, and then they're going to give you a starter pack of solution so you can get yourself started. But what happens is this stuff, it peens the parts. Well, you don't want to do parts with it probably, unless there's some things maybe around the shop that you don't mind getting peened over a little bit. But basically this is for casings. So with the rotary tumbling with the little pins that are peening this thing, they do an outstanding job of getting your casings looking, I mean, really clean. Now they aren't necessarily super polished, but they're very, very clean and they're degreased really well. Sonic cleaners are pretty good at degreasing as well too. So again, if you're going to use either a rotary tumbler or you're going to use a sonic cleaner, got to remember to dry your stuff as soon as it's coming out. But also, when you are going to be gathering up your pins after you've been using one of the rotary cleaners, get yourself one of these magnets so you can gather up all of those little pins. And make sure that you get them all. You don't want that stuff going down the barrel of your gun. Now, the traditional separators that are out there, most of them have been designed just for like dry media. Frankfurt's got one, there's probably other brands now, where you have a separator that was designed more around the notion of using it not only for dry media, walnut and corn cob, but also the wet tumbling. Which is kind of cool what they did with their design, from these guys, is this lends itself better to doing both dry or wet. You can pick it up, you can dump it out and not spill all over the place. So if that's an option for you, you got a place to put it, go for it. It does a wonderful job. Now what I mentioned was that they degrease really, really well. Now you've got your casings all cleaned up from either a rotary tumbler or a sonic cleaner, and now you put a little bit of lube on your casings and you start to load. And you notice, like on a straight wall casing, as it goes on to the little mandrel for expanding, that when you go to withdraw it, you get some sticking. Well, you have removed all of the lubricity from that thing by such an outstanding cleaning method. Now you want to go back and make sure that you've got some sort of lubricity added to it, whether you do it in the way of a lubricant that's being added to the casings, or you put them in a vibratory tumbler, and that's going to help, again, bring back some of that lubricity so they slide in and out of the dies a little bit easier. When you go to expand, they won't stick on the mandrel, that type of thing. So if you've already got a vibratory tumbler and you want to try either the rotary tumbler or sonic cleaning, don't throw your old tumbler away, because you may want to use it anyway. Because these things don't necessarily bring up the sheen and make them nice and polished. They'll get them clean for you, and they typically will do it much faster too, by the way. But now you've got the liquid to deal with at the end, and then you can go back, throw it in your vibratory tumbler, bring up the sheen, make them nice and polished any way you like it, and then you've got some beautiful looking casings. There's other products that are out there you can get in like a powder type form that they would come in a jar, and you put in a few tablespoons or whatever into a 5-gallon bucket with hot water, throw your brass in there, let it sit for a half hour, swish it around, whatever, and then rinse it out, and that's pretty good. There is no such thing as the best method for cleaning casings. There is no such thing as the best tools that are used for making ammunition. What there is there what is appropriate for you, with how much money you've got to spend, with where you're going to put this stuff to use it. So there is no best. There's what's appropriate for you with the volume that you're doing, what you're doing, and you can tailor it to meet your specific need and with whatever budget that you have in mind to do it with.